Hey, 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 it's Rati Gorfine, and I'm here to talk to you about compare and despair. That's the subject of our live today, compare and despair. You know that phenomena when somebody else does something really well, and for some reason you make that mean you're not good enough. Yeah. Well, before I get into that, I'm going to just direct your attention to the link up there. It's a link for an event I'm doing on Saturday. So if don't have time to hang out right now, you can bookmark this video, come back to it if the whole idea of compare and despair resonates, so you can watch this later. And you can click the link to take you to my ADHD Get It Done Day coming this Saturday. I'd really love to have you. It is a great way to put the focus on what it is you want rather than who it is you think you should be, which is what we're talking about today. Uh, I'm going to be talking about what it is to feel like you are enough. All right. And that is the antidote to envy, after all, enoughness. I was inspired to talk about this today by a client of mine I've talked about before. Her name is Rhonda, and she's a PhD candidate. She studies evolutionary biology, and she is doing great. I mean, she came to me. She was all over the place. She was going to drop out. She just felt because of her ADHD, there was no way she could ever write a dissertation. Fast forward, she's about to propose her thesis, and she is way ahead on her labs and research, and she just got back from her wedding. So here we are now, re-entering together. And what came up in the session was when we thought about being in the lab again, the anxiety it brought up. The reason it brought up this anxiety for Rhonda is because there is somebody there in the lab. I guess it's an I don't know if it's an older, if it's an older student or someone who just works in the lab to oversee things. Anyways, they have a protege who is, I think, an undergraduate student who's like wicked smart and very organized. And whenever Rhonda's in there, she feels criticized a lot by this, well, overseer type person in the lab. Why don't you do this? Why did you do that? You didn't do that. You didn't do this. You didn't do that. Okay. And what Rhonda started to ruminate aloud about today was how she thought there were things she needed to be, other than who she was, to be a scientist. Well, if you're a scientist, you have to think in such and such a way. You have to be organized in such and such a way. Now, there are probably checklists and marks you have to hit, and there's probably truth to some of that. But how you align to the demands of being any particular thing, whether it's a scientist or a musician, that's all about you and your unique self. And what Rhonda realized in the course of our conversation was if she wasn't good enough by now, they would have kicked her out of this PhD program. She herself wanted to quit, and people rallied around her to keep going from this program, including her advisor and other people. She's very well respected. But because of her tendency to compare and despair, to look at the other students, the way the other students work, which does not align well with her particular brain wiring, she starts to feel inferior. Now, the cue for Rhonda to remember that she is enough is that very feeling of envy, that very despair, that very feeling of despair. It is a cue to remember for her that she is a scientist and is unparalleled in essence, with regard to her unique ideas and approach. So I would say this to you. If you see somebody hit a home run and excel at something, catch yourself. Are you feeling less than? And if you are, can you reframe that as different than? Can you see somebody perhaps doing something that you yourself want to do and getting some acknowledgement for it, and catch yourself saying, well, I didn't accomplish that yet, and reframe that as, if they can do it, so can I. But better yet, reframe it as, they did that. I can't wait to show the world what I do, because I'm enough. I am different. This is the trick to overcoming compare and despair. Using it as a cue to reclaim the moment, come back into your moment, into your world, into who you are, and remembering what it is that you want and that you're working on. Don't allow envy to become a distraction. So we're talking about mental habits here, aren't we? We're talking about catching yourself, the almighty pause. If you're somebody who is familiar with the culture, essentially, of ADHD, a lot of the organizations that support people with ADHD, like CHADD, Children and Adults with ADD, there are others. The pause is an idiom you hear a lot. It is something you hear a lot. When you catch yourself going into a negative mindset, the pause is what allows you to access your metacognition and remember who you are, essentially. So, in summary, envy is a cue to remember your enoughness. If you take away nothing else from my little spiel today, please take that. Envy is your cue to remember your enoughness. So I'm really glad you tuned in to listen to this at whatever point you do, because I don't know that I have folks listening live at the moment, and that's okay. Whenever you hear this is when you need to hear this. As I mentioned early on, I have an event coming up on Saturday that I'm very excited about, and I'd love you to be part of it. It's called the ADHD Get It Done Day. If you're somebody who gets overwhelmed by your own dreams because of the magnitude of them, or so you imagine, this is a workshop that will allow you to chunk it down. You know the expression, how do you eat an elephant? A bite at a time. Well, that's lovely. But you have to know how to cook the elephant. Pardon me, all you vegans out there. Really, before you can eat the elephant, you have to know how to cook it and, carve it. That's a horrible metaphor. I'm so sorry. But I mean, for lack of a better thing popping into my head right now, and after all, this is a live, it's not a rehearsed video. This Saturday is an opportunity for you to learn some tools you may not have yet. If you have ideas that you haven't yet launched, that you're not down on the field going for, come join me on Saturday. You're going to learn a lot. Chances are you have a problem with indecision. That stops a lot of people from starting because they put so much weight on every decision pertaining to their goal. If you're somebody who has difficulty with time, you have a real difficult time assessing how long something takes, so it's difficult for you to reverse engineer it and get it on a timeline, I'm going to teach you how to do that. So click the link in the description of the video. It's $27, the cost of a brunch, all right? And for the cost of a brunch, you could learn some tools that'll change your life forever. All right, there's some hyperbole for you. Come join me Saturday, but I'll see you again before that. I'll be here on Thursdays. I do these live streams every Tuesday and Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you enjoyed this, I hope you'll share it. I hope you'll subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I'll see you again in a couple days. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.